Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series where we cover the entire Bible in 20 months. Well, today's chapters are Isaiah 16 and 1 John 4. Now I'm down here in the Western Cape. It's a beautiful day, a little bit hazy, so you can't really see the mountains. Right in the distance there you can see the base of Lion's Head. Now, this is what happens in Isaiah 16. Isaiah basically continues his prophecy against Moab. And he says, send lambs as tribute to the ruler of the land from Selah across the desert to the mount of daughter Zion. He's basically saying to the Moabites, get back to what brought you peace in the first place. Pay tribute to Jerusalem. Get your lives in order. And then he says, like a fluttering bird pushed from the nest of the women of Moab at the fords of Ammon. And so basically, Moab, under God's judgment, is stumbling around in confusion like a bird chucked out of its nest. Then there's a curious jump to the coming of Jesus. Now remember, we said prophecy, and Isaiah is a great prophet, prophecy moves from distant to present effortlessly. It's like looking at a mountain range. Now I said below, right in the corner there, you can see the base of Lion's Head. But in the fog, in the mist behind, there's mountains behind you. You can't really see. And the same with prophecy. When prophets prophesy, you don't really know what's the distance between the prophecies. And so this one says, verse 5, in love a throne will be established. In faithfulness a man will sit on it. One from the house of David. One whom judging seeks justice and speeds the courts of righteousness. So basically he's talking about Jesus. He's saying this judgment is going to come over Moab. This judgment is going to come over the house of Israel too. And then a Messiah is going to come from the house of David. He'll sit on the throne and he'll rule justly. And then to the end of the chapter, he comes back to the present again, and he basically says within 3 years this Moabite judgment is going to take place, and history bears testimony to that. Now let's go to 1 John chapter 4. Now there are two big themes in 1 John 4. One is the false prophets, and the other is love being the signature of true faith in Jesus. Now he's basically saying any false prophet is one who does not believe Jesus Christ came in the flesh. That's an easy way to test it. If they glorify Jesus, believe that he came in the flesh, died for our sins as an atonement for us, that's not a false prophet. And then he moves effortlessly to understanding what true faith is. Everyone who loves is being born of God. He says that this is essentially the great apostle of love, John, isn't it? This is how God showed his love to us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love. Not that we love God, but that he loved us and he sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice. Verse 12 says, no one has ever seen God. But if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. Verse 15, if anyone acknowledges Jesus, the Son of God, God lives in them and they live in God. And so we know and rely on the love of God. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in him. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. When the love of God is shed abroad in your heart, when the love of God is fully comprehended, we're not driven by anything else other than God's love, and that love propels us toward people. We love because he first loved us, verse 19 says. And then he says this, whoever claims to love God yet hates his brother is a liar. True faith, the litmus test for true faith, is love. And he ends by saying in verse 21, and he has given us this command, anyone who loves God must also love their brother and sister. I'm living in a tough place right now. I mean, the people down here in the Western Cape, so many of them are far from God. And we can invent all sorts of ways of getting the gospel to them, but this is the tried and tested way to love each other. I'm going to meet a lady today, a businesswoman, who's been pretty rough, the way she's handled the church. And I suppose love is the way that's going to reach her. Not a wise word, not a intellectual debate, but the love of God. And I trust as you go through this chapter, God stirs you and you receive a fresh revelation, a fresh encounter of his love for you. We can love because we know his love.